So on this page, we're talking about multiplying fractions with modeling. And we haven't really talked about multiplying fractions yet, but let's start by first talking about them by looking at pictures. And we've been working on drawing pictures of fractions with our last unit, so this shouldn't be anything that's too difficult. So it says, find 1/3 times 1/2 using a model. Now a model is just a picture. And like I said, we've been drawing pictures of fractions for a while, so this shouldn't be anything that's too new. Now the only thing that is different about this is we're going to have to overlay them one on top of the other. So the first thing, we're going to do rows first. And if you have trouble remembering your rows and your columns, think of the song, row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Well, when you row, you go across, you don't go up and down. So when you're going side to side with a row. So we're going to draw 1/3 by cutting the rectangle into rows. Well, the denominator's 3, so I need to break it into 3. And I need to color one of those. And I'm going to use blue and yellow highlighter. I would recommend that you use blue and yellow markers, colored pencils, crayons for this so that you can actually see what you are coloring at the end. So I'm going to color 1/3 of this. And that is blue. Okay. Now the next thing, it says draw 1/2 by cutting the rectangle into columns. Well, columns stand up and down. You can think of like those Greek buildings. You see a lot of columns on the front. And I'm going to cut it into 2. So I'm just going to cut it in half. That was a bad half. Let's try that again. That's a little better. Okay, so then I want you to get out your yellow. And we'll highlight one column yellow. And then the last step when you solve these is you're going to overlay the two pictures. So let's redraw the first picture. We redraw it. We're going to cut this back into thirds using our blue. We're going to color the one section like that. And then we're going to get the yellow. Oh, I'm sorry. We have to cut it first. We have to draw this picture. So we have to cut it in half. Then we're going to take our yellow and we're going to color the whole column. Okay. So if we look at this, this is the 1/3. This is the 1/2 right here. This that I'm going to darken is the answer. This one little box right here is the answer. So if we look down right below that, it says, where does the answer come from? It says, how many squares were covered twice? Well, we have one square right here that was covered twice. So we have one, and it should be green. Mine didn't come out to be green. That is shared. Then we count up the rest of the squares. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So I have 1 totally shaded out of 6 total squares. And if you need to, watch this part of the video over again to rewatch me lay one of these out, because you're going to have to do it by yourself in the next activity. Now, the other way that we can show fraction multiplication is with a number line. So if we look at how do we do it with a number line, it says Jasmine walks 3 days a week, 2½ miles each day. How many miles does she walk in a week? So if we look at this, it says starting at 0, make a mark every 2½ spaces until you have made 3 marks. Now, do you see how the fraction is 1/2? The first thing that it makes this easier for you to do is because the fraction is 1/2, and let's write this, because the fraction is 1/2. We are going to cut each whole into 1/2. So if we look down here, all that means is we're going to draw a half mark on our number line. So between 0 and 1 is 1/2. And then 1/2, 1/2. Do that the whole way down. Just put one little mark to show the half. Now if this was thirds, we'd have to cut it into thirds. If it was fourths, we'd have to cut it into fourths. But because the fraction is only half, we're just going to cut it in half. Now we can go back to this starting at 0, make a mark every 2.5 spaces. So let me pick a different color here. And we're going to go 2 and 1/2 3 times. So we're going to start at 0. I'm going to do little loops. 1, 2, and 1/2. So this is 1. That's one jump. I need to make 3 jumps. So let's do it again. Now this time I'm stuck at a half. So instead of counting 2 and 1/2, I'm actually going to count it backwards. So I'm going to say 1/2. So it puts me at a whole. And then I can go 1, 2. And that's 2 jumps. Now I'm back at a whole again. So I'm going to count 1, 2, and then the extra little half. And that is 3 jumps. So right here is the answer. So what, because I jumped 3, 2.5 each time. So my answer is 7, because the whole number is 7, and I'm in between, so it's 1/2. So where does the answer come from? The number where you made the last mark. Okay, so if you need to watch that again, rewind the video and rewatch me make it over again so that you can practice, because on the next activity you're going to have to do this on your own. If you need to put a little arrow here that says answer, go ahead and do that.